Hey guys, here we are. We made it. Another episode of I Need Friends, a podcast about whatever. I keep having to clear my throat today. I don't know what's going on with my voice, but I've been putting off recording this episode for multiple reasons, and I just felt like I could do it today. So if my voice cracks a little bit, you're just going to have to deal with that. Okay? You'll be all right. Just hang in there. Um, one of the reasons it took me a while to record this because I was actually going to well, today's May 21st. I was going to record it last month. But I have a lot of things going on, and then also my brother died on April 29th. He was only 32. Just really sucked. And so of course, there's a lot to do. When something like that happens, and there's a lot to deal with personally. And on top of that, I just have like this big weird family with like ex-step parents and ex-step siblings that are still family. It's really complicated. So there was just a lot to deal with. And I've been really excited about doing this episode. I had notes on it, even before my brother died, but I just had too much going on, and you got to take time for yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing nothing sometimes. It's a good thing to do. I have a hard time when I'm doing nothing. I constantly feel like I should be doing something. But you don't have to be doing something all the time. You can just be. And I think that's really important, especially when you're experiencing grief or extreme stress or both at the same time. So that's what I did. And then I had a lot to catch up with my business and my other little things I have going on in my family. But here I am, and here we are to discuss the point of humanity. What is the point of humanity? Why are we all here? That's what my 9-year-old daughter wanted to know one night, just as I was getting ready to go to bed. So thanks, Violet, for that. I was really excited to answer a question. We were just chilling, watching TV late one night. I think it was a Saturday, and I'm getting up out of my chair, and I'm getting ready to tell my daughter, like, "Hey, I'm going to bed." And before I could even say anything, she's like, "Hey, Mom, what's the point of humanity?" And I just laughed for like 30 seconds. I was just sitting there, like, head between my knees, just body shaking, cracking up. And she's like, "What are you laughing at? Why are you laughing?" I'm like, "Because I can't believe you're asking me this question right now. Like, girl, I'm trying to go to sleep. What are you doing?" And you and everyone else has been trying to figure this out for centuries. So good luck to you on your quest. Godspeed. No, but this is the kind of curiosity that you want to nurture in your kids. Like, I really wanted to answer this question for her, because, like, again, like when they're asking stuff like this, like, these are the questions you want them to ask. You want them to be thinking about these things and wondering about things from like a looking at the bigger picture, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then, also if you don't give them an answer, like, they're going to think of one on their own. They're going to come up with their own idea, or they're going to get it from someone else that maybe they shouldn't trust to be giving them those answers. And also, like, wondering about these things, exploring these things, thinking about things like this is a great way to bond with your kid. I mean, think about just another adult when you're having an interaction with them where you're talking about something that you would like describe as like deep or meaningful. Like, it feels so good to have a conversation with someone like that, and you feel like you've gotten to know them on a deeper level because they're letting you in on how they see the world. So, let your kids in on how you really see the world, and not some, pretty picture that you've painted for them, that you put in front of the window, that one day they're going to see what's behind the window and see it's not actually this pretty painted picture. Um, Not that our conversation was so grim where we talked about the world being an awful place. It was actually quite the opposite. It ended up being just a really lovely conversation. And I know like a lot of people kind of brag on their kids, but like my kid she's really smart, and she's very mature, and she contemplates things that not many other kids are contemplating. I'm not going to say that none of them are, because that's just not true. Like, kids are really fascinating, and a lot of them have very different strengths in different areas. So when you put two kids together and say that one's smarter than the other, it's not that simple. I don't need to go off on that tangent, though. That's a whole separate thing that has nothing to do with our conversation. So the short answer that I gave her basically was, well, there is no point. The point of humanity is to make your own point. And that answer is satisfying to me, but I understand that that's not going to be a satisfying answer for a lot of other people. They want to know that, or think, or wonder at least, that there's something bigger than them involved in not just their life, but our lives collectively as humans. And I don't think that, personally, I don't think that, having the answer, there is no point, the point is to make your own point. I don't think that excludes something bigger than you from being a part of that. So that's why I like that answer. And of course, talking to my almost 9-year-old daughter, I was going to elaborate on that. And I'm an atheist, more specifically a humanist. So I believe that all humans have value. Like, you exist, therefore you have value. It's kind of like an oversimplification of humanist values. So obviously that shaped the way that I answered the question and that we had the discussion, just as your beliefs are going to shape yours. So if you're religious, or any kind of believer in any kind of religion, I know a lot of religious people don't like to ascribe to the religious label. So whatever you do, if you believe in any gods or anything like that, this discussion is not going to be about that. So I don't want to disappoint you, but we're just going to be talking about humans and nothing supernatural. The only supernatural thing that we'll be talking about, the only God we'll be discussing, is Dr. Manhattan. More on that later. Anyway, so she was kind of getting, it seemed a little sad, I think, where she was talking about, asking me what the point of humanity is. And like I said, that saying that there is no point, and the point's to make your own point, is not satisfying to a lot of people. And it wasn't satisfying to her. And she definitely did not want to hear me say that there is no point. But like I had to elaborate, obviously, because I didn't mean like, well, there's no point at all. It's just there's no, let's see. How do I say this? I'm trying to remember specifically how I said it to her, because I wrote it down, and like, as I was saying it and even thinking about it after, I'm just like, I'm not sure if that made sense. It did get her kind of thinking about things from a different perspective, though. So let me see how I can like break this down for you. So for some background, she really likes to watch videos about like, space and the universe and stuff like that. And so she's seen some of those videos where it shows how small planet Earth actually is compared to the sun, our solar system, our galaxy, larger stars that are, light years away from us, and seeing that we're just like a microscopic blue dot compared to these other things. She's like, what is the meaning? And she just kept being stuck on this thing with meaning. And I'm like, I mean, Violet, there's not something for, things to mean too. And she's just kind of looking at me weirdly, like, what did you just say? And I'm thinking to myself, like, what did I just say? And she's like, let me ask you something else. Like, so life doesn't really matter? Is that what you're saying? And then I'm like, oh, fuck. Well, I must be messing this up. If what I'm saying, if what she's getting from this is life doesn't really matter. And I'm just like, no. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that you're stuck on this meaning and this matter as if things can matter to the universe, as if the universe were a thing for something to matter to. In order for something to matter, it has to matter to someone. There has to be a someone for this something to matter to. In order for something to have meaning, there has to be someone to hold meaning to that. Like there's no meaning if there's not a person that it's meaning something to. Do you get what I'm saying? So to like say, does life as a whole, does that have meaning? Well, like meaning to whom? Like having meaning is like that's a human value. So if your life matters to you, then your life matters. If your life has meaning to you, then your life has meaning. If it matters to someone else, if it like, there doesn't need to be some big grand thing to acknowledge you in order for your life to matter. And I think, she started kind of leaning into that a little more. And I'm not trying to get her to believe what I believe. I think all of us naturally as humans want the people that we love and the people that we're around to kind of have the same worldview as us. And we kind of naturally think like, oh, my opinion's the right opinion. My worldview is the right worldview and other people should have it. And I've, over the past few years, I've learned to kind of just let go of that. Be like, yeah, this is your opinion and this is what you think is right, but that doesn't mean that you are right. And you need to accept that this is just an opinion that you can't hold on to very tightly because you might need to let go of it someday when you're presented with new information. So I don't want to make Violet think what I think. I want my daughter to come to her own conclusions. But if she is asking specifically my beliefs, then I will share them with her. I know they do influence her, but she's always been pretty good at making her own decisions about what she believes. Like she believed in Santa Claus and I just don't do the Santa Claus thing. I didn't growing up. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. So she knew that I didn't believe in Santa Claus. We would talk about it. She's like 3 and 4. Be like, my mom doesn't believe in Santa Claus. It didn't stop her from believing. So, there's a difference between being open with your kid about your beliefs and being honest with them and then pushing your beliefs on them. So I just want to make a point that I'm very careful in these conversations to make sure that she knows that she doesn't have to think what I think. But I want to give her reasons for everything that I think. I just don't want to say, oh, I believe this just because, and you should believe it because it feels good. But I certainly don't want to, let her continue to believe that her life doesn't have meaning. Like, obviously, we're going to work on that. And that's something I'm going to try to convince her of, the opposite. And she was just stuck on this, like the earth being so small and kind of applying insignificance to earth and everything on it because of its size. And I never had the opportunity to take like physics in high school or in college the short time I was there. And I'm very fascinated with it now. So like I've read some books on it, which are difficult to get through, to say the least. Although I find it very interesting, some of it I just don't understand. So I watch a lot of videos on it, like PBS Spacetime has a lot of cool stuff about physics, astrophysics, all kinds of stuff. Quantum physics, which to me is the most fascinating. And that's when they get into like looking inside atoms. And like when I learned about, atoms in high school, it was just, okay, here's your neutron and your proton and electron. And it's really cool, but at least my high school teacher, I don't think, did a really good job, like fully expressing how fascinating it is that there's these tiny things inside this already tiny thing, and it has its own inner workings in there that you can't even see, that's constantly going on. And then, even beyond those electrons and protons, inside of those are like quarks, up quarks, down quarks, charm quarks. There's microscopic parts inside these microscopic parts inside these microscopic parts, and they all do something. And we would not exist without these atoms, and without these protons inside these atoms, and without these quarks inside these protons. And all these little tiny things are doing something. We can't see them. Does that mean that they're insignificant because it's so small? I mean, you look at the Earth on the map, on like a map of the universe. If you tried to point out the Earth, it would be this tiny microscopic dot. But look at everything that's going on there. Look at everything that's happening, just not even in our solar system, but here, just on this one little planet. Forget the moon that is orbiting around us. Just this one planet and everything that's happening here. You have trees, animals, beautiful mountains, big, great, terrifying oceans. You get sunsets that look like they've been painted in the sky. There's butterflies with wings that are more frail than eyelashes. I mean, it's just all this stuff happening here on this tiny little place. And then you have these humans who are creating, they're dancing, they're singing, they're writing, they're painting, they're cooking, they're loving, they're teaching, they're playing, they're inventing. I mean, all of this on this tiny microscopic dot on the map of the universe. What about us being small makes us so insignificant? If a quark inside a proton, inside an atom, inside a cell, inside a person is not insignificant, then we aren't insignificant just because we're small. There doesn't have to be some great thing acknowledging us, looking down on us for us to matter. We only need to matter to ourselves and matter to each other. And that's where our meaning comes from. Like the fact that you just made it here is significant enough. I mean, it's almost impossible that you existed in the first place. And when I was talking to Violet about this part specifically, about how hard and how unlikely it is to actually become a human, everyone is extremely significant and everyone's special. And it made me think of the Bible. And by the Bible, I, of course, mean the graphic novel Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, not the Holy Bible. I love Watchmen. I'm obsessed with it. Not the movie. We'll talk about that another time. Come at me if you loved it. We'll fight. But it's an amazing story, but there's a part in the comic, just to give you like some quick background if you're not familiar with the story. It's set in the 80s, and everyone they're on the blink they're on the brink of nuclear war, and everyone, well, not everyone, but people that know what's going on just think that they're going to die and think that this is the end of humanity. So one of the characters, Lori, who's also the Silk Spectre, she goes to talk with Dr. Manhattan, who's like this, basically a god in this universe, who's left Earth. He used to be on Earth and was helping people. He helped the U.S. win the Vietnam War. Again, this is a different universe that they're in, right? So things happen a little differently. But he left Earth. He used to be with Lori. She left him. He just started to feel so disconnected with humans and didn't see any point in spending any more time with them. So he goes to Mars, and he's on Mars, and Lori is there talking with him, trying to get him to come back to Earth to save everyone. She's like, you have the ability to stop this nuclear war. Like, can you just stop it? Like, please, like, save us. We need you. And he's basically saying that he doesn't see a point in humanity. Like, what's the point of me saving you? He's showing her Mars. He's built like this kind of ship, and they're floating around on Mars just above the land, and he's showing her everything. He's like, look at these beautiful mountains, and look all that's going on without any humans here. Everything is working just fine without any humans. Like, tell me, would this be improved by putting an oil pipeline here? And, you know, he's making some good points, and Lori is having a hard time arguing with him. And he ends up, you know, because he can do almost anything, he ends up showing her and kind of revealing to her some things from her past. And in that, she realizes that there's a spoiler coming up. So if you don't want Watchmen, this book that came out forever ago, spoiled for you, stop listening. But she finds out that her dad had actually sexually assaulted her mom before. And so now she's realizing all these things that happened and why her mom acted the way she did around this guy. And just he did this abhorrent thing to her mother, and he's her father. And so now she's kind of starting to feel like maybe her life doesn't have meaning. She says it's all a joke. And this makes Dr. Manhattan realize that humanity does in fact have meaning. There is something special with human life. And what makes him realize this is he's looking at Lori's situation where, like, she shouldn't have come out of this. This woman hated this man. This man did something he shouldn't have done. They came together afterwards. That shouldn't have happened. Those are things that don't typically happen. And then after all of that unusual stuff happened, now this sperm, there were millions of sperm vying for this egg, this one egg that happened to come down the fallopian tube waiting to be fertilized. It happened to be this particular combination of this one sperm that made it and this one egg that was ready. And here you are. It's a thermodynamic miracle. It's just something that almost shouldn't happen, and yet it happens all the time. And it gets a little cheesy here, but I still like it, and I think it's really good. Is that she says it's really so cheesy. She says, "Well, if my life is special because of that, then that would mean that everyone's special." And Dr. Manhattan's like, "Well, yeah, of course." Again, it's really cheesy, but it's good. It really is kind of a I guess a paradox with humanity, is that we're all so special and we're all so not special at the same time. But the fact that we're not special doesn't take away from the fact that we're special, and the fact that we're special doesn't take away from the fact that we're not special. Wrap your head around that one. Anyway, maybe it was the colorful pictures. because I actually pulled out the comic to show her that specific page and go over that part with her. But she really liked it. She felt much more satisfied by the end of it, felt like her life had meaning and that it was up to her to make her life have meaning. And then we got into this other long discussion about how, here you are with your life and you got to do something with it, because you're not like, you don't get another one. Like, you don't get any do-overs. And we've had discussions before about like death and the possibilities of an afterlife or ghosts or something like that. And she was kind of we were kind of walking through one day, what we would like to happen to us when we die. Like, do we just want to be gone? Like before we were born, do we just want to not exist? Do we want to be ghosts? And then if we were, what kind of ghosts would we be? And it was kind of fun, and then ended up being kind of intellectual, where, Violet started deciding that with all the options that she had, being a ghost didn't sound that great. Going through like, if ghosts were real and you were a ghost, what would it feel like and what would be happening? Would you even actually want that? No. Would you want to live forever? Well, yeah, it sounds cool. And then we start getting into more and more things. And it's like, eventually you probably would just be done with existing. Like, life is just hard. It really, really is. Just trying to live is it's difficult. So, I mean, would you really want to keep that up for thousands of years? Like, I don't know. And we kind of reached the same conclusion together in slightly different ways, but basically we both decided that, like, yeah, it'd probably be best to just, not be. Like, things need to end. Like, just because things end doesn't make them bad or sad or mean that you shouldn't do them or that they have no point. It's like, you go to a party and it's going to end. A lot of the times when you go to a kid's birthday party, it has the ending time on there, 2 to 5, 2 to 4, whatever, 11:30 to 1:30 if you're trying to get it out of the way for the day. But it's going to end. So you don't say, well, I'm not going to go. There's no point in this party. It's going to end. Well, yeah, we could go watch this movie, but it's going to end and it'll be over. And what's the point? Just because something ends doesn't make it pointless. So basically, that's what I think about the point of humanity. You make your own point, and things don't need to matter to anyone but you and the people you love. So I understand. Oh, there goes Rosie with her ears. Rosie Bosie. Sorry, I love my dog. I understand the desire to want to look for something bigger and want to hope that there's like something more purposeful outside of a human construct. But I haven't seen anything where I think that's the case, and so I won't believe something that I just doesn't make sense to me, and I just can't really see any evidence for. I did used to be a Christian for like 20 years, and I was very deeply immersed in it. So that being said, I'm very interested in getting some feedback on this episode. I would love to know your thoughts, what you think, if you agree, disagree, if you think what I said was complete gibberish, if you think it was enlightening. I don't even know. I couldn't even characterize my answer for whether it was good or not. I just thought that it was interesting. I thought it was so fascinating that I was having this conversation with my almost 9-year-old. But again, give me your feedback. Please don't proselytize. Don't try to like witness to me or save me. I'm not lost. I don't need to be saved. I've read the Bible extensively. So I don't need any of that. I hope that I haven't offended anyone by not believing what they believe about life. Hopefully you won't be offended by that. But who knows these days? I am putting this on the internet. So we all know how that can go. Anyway, again, please send me your feedback. You can find me on Twitter at a lady human, like a human that's a lady. You can also find me on Instagram at I need friends _pod. You can like DM me on there. Or you can send me an email. That's I need friends pod at gmail.com. And I'll have that in the description as well. This is the stuff I love talking about that I can't talk to a lot of people about. I didn't have this discussion with my friends. I had this discussion with my daughter. So if you have thoughts that you want to share, please go for it. Reach out to me in either of those ways. And we'll talk about it. I'd actually like to do a follow-up episode on this. Did I say that right? Follow-up episode. It sounded weird. On this one, hopefully with some of your feedback. So I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed. I wish I could tell you when the next episode is coming, but life is life. So you'll get it when you get it. All right, friends. Till next time.